Consider this a Tuesday lawfare episode of Occupy Democrats because I have not one, but two stories of the legal system versus Donald Trump. One is the Supreme Court versus his policy and what is being described as a collision. And the other, my featured story, is the DOJ versus the man himself. And that one comes with a quote from a prominent DOJ insider who says, "There is tons of evidence against Trump." I have both for you next. First up is the collision as Trump tries to carry his economic wrecking ball over the giant hurdle that is the Supreme Court. Have a listen to Politico reporter Josh Gerstein break down what's happening, and on the other side I'll have the other legal news that is trending. A story that declares there's a mountain of evidence against your president for a crime he committed.
Will the Supreme Court let Donald Trump press on with his controversial tariff policy? Here are three things to watch for as the justices prepare to hear high-profile oral arguments on just how far presidential power goes. I'm Josh Gerstein, a senior legal affairs reporter with Politico. Number one, the showdown over Trump's tariff policy represents a collision between two central tenets of conservative legal thought in the United States. One is highly deferential to the president on matters of national security and foreign policy, and the other one is highly skeptical of federal government actions, especially executive branch unilateral actions on matters that have a dramatic impact on the economy. Whether the justices see this as a national security case or primarily as an economic case will be a strong indication of what the result is going to be. Number two, another thing to watch or listen for at the arguments is whether the key justices, the ones whose votes we think are really in play, give any hints about where they're going to come out. For this case, most lawyers think that's Chief Justice John Roberts, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, and Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh may be the most interesting. He's been very skeptical about executive actions that have a dramatic impact on the economy, but he's also someone who believes that the president should be given broad leeway on matters of national security. It's a feeling that dates back to his service in the White House for President George W. Bush during 9/11. Number three, one other thing I'll be watching for at the tariff arguments is any impact of the ongoing government shutdown. The arguments are going forward normally, but the justices are often fond of saying that if they don't get a case right, it can usually be taken care of by Congress later, fixing the statute. At the moment, Congress can't even manage to keep the lights on for the federal government, so those sorts of arguments may fall on deaf ears.
We are 100% confident in the president and his team's legal arguments in the merits of the law in this case, and we remain optimistic that the Supreme Court is going to do the right thing. The importance of this case cannot be overstated. The president must have the emergency authority to utilize tariffs.
I'm sure we will keep you posted on that as it unfolds, but for now, let's turn our attention to the tons of evidence against Trump quote. That declaration came from Jack Smith, the former DOJ special counsel who indicted Trump for mishandling classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. He made the bold statement while explaining the difference between Trump's case and the classified documents that Joe Biden had, something Trump kept citing as a false equivalency.
Yeah, so I think this is actually a great example to talk about the rule of law and enforcing the law equally. And just as a sort of background, that case, the Biden case you're talking about, I didn't have any role investigating that. Another prosecutor, another career prosecutor, a guy by the name of Robert Hur, who had actually been the U.S. attorney in Maryland under the first Trump administration, took on that matter. And he found in his case that it was not warranted to go forward in that case. And the difference, and this is what matters, is both cases involve classified documents, and one was in Mar-a-Lago, which was a social club, and also his home, and the other one was largely in Biden's home, also I think an office that he worked at. The difference is the facts. The rule of law allows for different outcomes when the facts are different. One of the major differences between the two cases is the obstructive conduct in the case that I investigated. And that's important for a couple of different reasons. One reason is to prove illegal possession of classified documents. You need to show that you possess the documents, or the defendant possessed the documents willfully. And that means he knew what he was doing was wrong, and he knew he was possessing the documents. In my particular case, we had tons of evidence of willfulness. We had, and the obstructive evidence, publicly saying these are my documents or things like that, and I can keep them. The evidence to not give the documents back when the government even tried to get them back before there was a criminal investigation. those sort of things, and then after the investigation started, still refusing to give them backs, and then trying to obstruct the investigation. That helps prove willfulness. That sort of evidence didn't exist in the other case.
I really wish I had a happier ending for this story. For instance, I wish the tons of evidence quote was in association with the Epstein files. Or I wish Jack Smith was still pursuing the case against Trump with the support of the DOJ. Or I wish the Supreme Court had not given Trump presidential immunity to protect him against such things. And with that immunity in mind, I'll give Smith the final word because he was also asked about that. Have a listen as he expresses his personal concern over the danger of that decision, but be sure and stick around until the end because his legal opinion may surprise you.
I think if you do that, it's tantamount to saying you can never prosecute powerful high officials because there could always be a concern that they'll stay in power and then come after people. The problem is not prosecuting high officials who did something wrong when you do it according to the processes of law in your country. It's the retaliation. That's the problem, and that's the thing that we should be preventing. And also, in the history of our country, what they're talking about, when we've done that, it hasn't happened in the past. And so I disagree with that. But again, that's the reasoning behind the opinion, the ultimate opinion. The law is what it now is in terms of official acts being immune. And that's something that we have to follow.